I was coming to next, Ray, that this is a very blurred line. This is a very gray area. You can't really put it as black and white as clearly as we would want it to be. And there are supporters of Julian Assange. There are people who empathize with him and say that, whatever he did was in the larger interest of the public, and that things which the public wouldn't have known otherwise were made known by the likes of Julian Assange.
Yeah, that's true. And like I said, he had help from people who actually took that information and released it to the public. He was a conduit. And I think that if he had been a more effective journalist and relayer of that information, he would have provided some more analysis with it instead of just, sticking it out online and letting people kind of figure it all out with kind of no interpretation. We've seen other stories where information has been released and there was that kind of analysis. For example, Edward Snowden in 2013, he released a lot of that information that he stole from the National Security Administration to news organizations that applied the standards of legitimate journalism. The Washington Post, The Guardian, they looked at it, they evaluated it, they talked to other people about it before they published it. And I think that's the way that it should go. And I don't think Assange always did that. And that's part of the problem I have with him. In the end, was the public served by some of that information? I think so. I think that 2000 video of the U.S. attack in Iraq was, kind of a wake-up call for a lot of people. But it followed on top of, 4 years of reporting on how bad things were in Iraq, in a war that the United States didn't need to start. So he was valuable, but I don't think he was the sole person who provided that kind of information.
So, Ray, do you think that, perhaps whatever Julian Assange did back then was his effort, his bid to gain his 15 minutes of fame, and that perhaps snowballed into a larger case that prolonged for so many years?
Well, there are always consequences to your actions, when you do something like that. People who are keeping that information don't take that lightly. So if you're involved in leaking that to the public, you're going to make a lot of people mad. And for sometimes legitimate reasons and sometimes for not legitimate reasons. So you can expect something that's going to happen to you. Look at Edward Snowden. I mean, now he's living in Russia. Those are the consequences of his actions by releasing that information. You don't just stick it online and, hope that nobody pays attention or you get away with it or you become famous without consequences. I mean, every news organization has consequences to what it publishes. And I've had to deal with that in my career. You do something, people don't like it, and they're going to criticize you. They're going to come at you if they can. They're going to take you to court. So if he didn't think that that was going to happen to him, he was extremely naive.